Happy Father's Day to everyone. So good to see everybody who is here. I played my flute at the beginning, even though Gloria isn't here, who always asks me to play flute. So I was ready just in case. All right, so the actual title of my talk is Sometimes Father is a Verb. And I want to talk about that. I think the Daily Word mentioned a lot of the same ideas that I'm going to talk about. But first of all, as I usually do, I'm going to talk about the history of Father's Day. So here it is. The first Father's Day was in the city of Spokane, Washington, and it was on June the 19th, June 19, the year 1910. It was established through the efforts of of churches there, and was eventually made into for the state of Washington, made into a special holiday, the third Sunday of the month of June, and that's where it first began. It was because of this woman who had been raised by a father all by himself for, well, not in the beginning, of course, but for years and years. This man's name was William Jackson Smart. And he originally lived in Arkansas. And he was a driver for supply wagons for the Southern Army, for the Confederate Army. But at the Battle of Pea Ridge, he was captured and was given a choice. You can go to federal prison, or you can switch sides and become a driver for us. And he said, I'll take door number 2, please. He became a driver, and and then when the war ended, here he was. He was a Confederate, and he was also a Union soldier. He continued to live in the small town in Arkansas where he was, which had a vein of coal, which ended up being one of the largest veins of coal in the United States. But he wasn't a coal miner. He didn't want to do that. He just lived on his farm with his children. Now, let me tell you about that. He married a woman who had 3 children, and the 2 of them had 5 children, and she passed away. He remarried, and they had 6 children. So he had a total of 14 children. Some were already grown and married and gone away, but he had been father to 14 children. When his second wife passed away, 5 kids, and I wonder how that happened. What brought that on? Anyway, so there he was, raising these children. His oldest was a girl, and then there were 5 boys following that. Rather than make a living in the coal mines, they gathered coal from here, there, and coal that was above surface on their farm, put it in a wagon, and took he was into wagons, wasn't he? And he took the wagon into the nearest town and sold coal there to the local populace. And that's what he did for quite some time. Then it turned out that there was free land being given away right outside of Spokane, Washington. And he loaded up his family in a what? Wagon, of course, and they headed off all the way to Spokane, Washington, and there they got free land and established a farm there. And he raised these children all by himself there on that farm. And she just thought he was the king. He was just the best father that ever lived. So when the time came, and it was a Mother's Day in 1910, and she thought, I really don't relate to mothers very well, because my father pretty much raised us by himself after the 5th boy, or the 5th boy died. was born, I mean. And then she passed away sometime there. So there she was, a grown woman now and married. Her name was now Sonora Smart Dodd. And she made a push to have the church celebrate a new idea called Father's Day. And the congregation there loved it. And they passed it on to other congregations who also loved the idea. And so did all the merchants in town love the idea. And it went beyond that to the legislature, and they loved the idea, and they passed the first Father's Day celebration to be on the third Sunday in June from that point on. And that took place then. But it didn't become a holiday in the United States, a federal holiday, until 1972. And it was declared to be a holiday by Richard Milhous Nixon. And that was probably the best thing he ever did for any of us, was make that happen. Oh, I'm sure he did other things as well, but he did that. And it had been recognized by many states and so forth, but never actually all conglomerated into one idea. The idea was that you celebrated your father and his existence and how much he meant to you with love and so forth. And then also you bought him a present. You bought him either a greeting card, which the industry absolutely loved, and or you bought him a present. And we all know what those presents were: ties, socks, those sort of things, hats in those days, shoes maybe in those days, all sorts of things like that that a father could use. Also, there was pipes and tobacco in those days that fathers got for as presents, and sporting goods. Today, golf clubs, all sorts of sporting goods, fishing rods, so forth, that he could use by himself. Today, the merchandise that is sold on Father's Day is over $1 billion. So it is well liked and will continue to go on, just like Mother's Day will continue to go on. Okay, that's the history of it. I think it's great that this day came about, because just like the Daily Word was saying, I had a father who taught me many, many things. And to be honest with you, there are things that I want to do around the house and so forth that I want to call him on the phone. I wish I still could. I still wish I could call my father and ask him, how do I do this? Fortunately, there's a new father that I can call. It's called YouTube. And I can find out how to fix or repair just about anything by using that. He would have loved to be around during the time now, because he was an electrician. He was a smart guy. He was not the main person. He was the salutatorian in his class, and he was well liked. He taught me to play guitar. He taught me lots of things, but that's my experience. However, just like I was saying in the very beginning, there is this idea that father is not necessarily the person who raised you, the physical male person. Well, let's talk about that for an instance. How do we come into being? We come into being by a connection between our mother and our father, or some guy. And that happens, and when it does, then we are brought into being. We are brought into being either as males or females, and or not necessarily that. There are other ways of looking at that nowadays, which I am all in favor of. Do you remember that we had, when we were still in the church over at Unity Life Center, we had a young woman who came to us, and one day after church, and we were all sitting around talking and having a discussion. Um, she opened her heart to us, and she said, "I feel like I'm a man trapped in this female body, and I don't know what to do about it, and I'm not sure what to do about it, but I just felt that I should tell somebody." Does anybody remember that day? I can't recall her name right at the moment, but I know that she was a photographer, and I owned several of her photographs that she put on. She would blow up and put on fiberboard or whatever, that foam board, and I had those for a long time. She later moved away, but I think about her often, and I think about her and realize that here was a woman who was being honest with us and saying, "I am a woman by nature, but I am a man also inside this body. What I do about it, I'm not sure. I've been troubled all my life, but now I feel like I can open up and tell people about that." Going back to the idea of father as a verb, we often think of it in terms of an adverb, actually. We don't say, "I fathered 3 children," or "I fathered you." We say many times, he has a fathering nature. Fathering. Many of you know that I don't like the term mother, father, or father, mother, God. I see that as being a two-headed thing, hard to describe. More of an idea of sort of a Egyptian or Greek or Roman idea. More of a statue with 2 faces or something, mother, father. Rather than do that, I like the idea of the action. And so when I'm saying a prayer or thinking in this term, I use the term mothering, fathering God, because I think there is one presence and one power which enacts both for us. One side nurtures us, raises us, loves us, is close to us, and is mothering for us. The other part, the fathering, is protection. It gives to us. It makes sure that we have a life, and that and that we are given all that we need to survive and to grow and to make a good idea in our life. It is there for us to give us answers and guidance. Not that the mothering isn't, but both are. And that is the way we picture God, as mothering us and fathering us both. There's an idea that we are all 2 parts in nature. Within us, spiritually, we are both male and female. The Bible even tells us in the beginning, male and female created he them, is the way the Old Testament is written in the King James Version. Male and female created he them. Most people read that and they say, okay, well, some are created male and some are created female. In the outer, that may be true. But in the inner, we are both male and female. And in unity, we give those ideas natures. We say a female nature within us and a male nature within us. And we say that the male nature is the way we express things through our intellect. Now, that doesn't mean, of course, that women aren't smart or anything like that, because women have within them this same male-female idea. But there is another part of us which is just as strong and just as important and just as useful, and that is the female nature that Unity calls the nature of our feelings, our emotions, the feeling nature. So we have a thinking nature or an intellectual nature and a feeling nature or an emotional nature. Now, it depends on, for us, which one do we allow to run the show? Male and female created he them. Which one runs the show? Now let's jump ahead for about 1,000 or more years, 1,200 years, and a man named Paul comes along and writes, women, obey your husbands. We look on that as in the outer nature of things, and we see that this is something that doesn't necessarily agree with the way we look at life in today's world. And many people look at this phrase and they say to themselves, I don't need that. I don't need to go that direction. I think that's probably just some old-fashioned idea. But if we look at the inner idea of that, it says, feeling nature, allow yourselves to be subsidized. Thank you, whatever the word is, whoever's thinking that. Let the idea of your thinking nature come first. So something happens in our lives. Oh, we might want to just react immediately with our feelings. And this idea of allow the feeling nature to be subsidiary to the thinking nature. Think about it first. Think about it. Think about what's really going on here. Take a moment, step back. Allow the thinking nature to lead the way as opposed to the feeling nature. When this happens, often we stop seeing the other in another person, and we start seeing the true nature of the other person. And we say to ourselves, wait a minute. You may have a different idea and a different way of expressing it. You may have a different set of values than I have, but we are all still the same. We all still have the same thinking, feeling nature and the same Father. We still have the same thinking, feeling nature and the same mother in life. When we do this, then we allow ourselves to become closer and closer to who we truly are. Who we truly are. A child of God. A God that is both mother and father to us. Mothering, fathering. So let's hold in our minds that idea and start using it in the practice of it in our lives, of allowing our thinking nature to lead the way, and then our feeling nature can follow, and the two can become one, can become the true divine marriage. You know, also, Jesus spoke this to Pontius Pilate. Pilate said to him, don't you realize that I hold the power of your life and death? And Jesus replied to him, you have no power except that which is given to you by the Father. That's the idea. Pilate actually got that enough that he thought about it quite some time and said, you know, this guy is speaking from his thinking nature as opposed to being fearful from his feeling nature. He recognized that, and he saw nothing wrong whatsoever in the man. He went out and washed his hands and told everyone, I see no wrong in this man. Do with him as you wish, but I see no wrong in this man. We have to think that way. We have to say, there is no power except the one power. That one power is fathering us. That one power is mothering us. There is but one. When we do this, we realize that everything is important and everything is to be honored. And that is the idea of a true love. God bless you.